Hey everybody, it's Captain Adonis, and we are doing a special broadcast today for a good friend of mine, Bill Beto, who is in London. So I was hoping he would jump in and join me here real quick, but looks like, let's see, what did he say? Okay, will do. All right, so he's going to jump in our private stream here. Now let me just text him and say, I am live now. All right, so there's a special story here with Bill Beto with this particular flight we're doing today. It's kind of a dedication to his father, but hopefully we'll get him in.
Bill Beto said, "Hey Cap."
Hey Bill Beto. All right, so I got a private live stream set up in Mahula's server. If you want to jump in there, if you want to do voice with me, and you can kind of talk about how special this is to you on what we're going to fly here today. I'll give you just a second to jump in. Let me know if you can or can't see it. I think I have it set up right. Hopefully I do. But as I was saying, we're going to do a special...
Bill Beto said, "It'll take me a minute to get my voice set up."
Okay, not a problem. Just jump in when you can. I'm going to go ahead and kind of explain what we're doing here. So, Bill Beto's dad, and I'll let him explain more on it, but his father worked on this bridge, and we're gonna switch over right now to a Google map. And I'm going to show you what's going on here. So, this bridge that his dad worked on is the Oresund Bridge. And it's a bridge that links Denmark and Sweden together. Okay. And we're going to zoom in here. So as you can see, it's not the only bridge because there's one up here. And I'm going to butcher the names of these towns. The only one I really know is Copenhagen. Or as some Americans, Copenhagen. But this goes between Malmo and Copenhagen. And it's a super long bridge. I've already flown this. But we're going to take off from Roskilde. And I'm sure I totally botched that. So all my Norwegian and Swedish and Dutch people can jump on me for that. But we're going to fly from Roskilde across Copenhagen, and there's quite a few, as you can, there's quite a few landmarks up north here, and we're gonna fly to the bridge. There's a couple landmarks that I want to hit. Over here in Sweden, we'll fly over. They're really close. They're right in Malmo there. And then we're going to circle back around, fly across the bay, and hit the ones in the northern Copenhagen. And we can see those. Now, I have all my navigation aids turned on in-game, so we should be able to find them pretty simple. Like this one here is the stadium. And then we got a castle. I really want to make sure we hit Rosenborg Castle. So I think I don't know what the Rosenborg Castle looks like, but it's gonna be cool. So that's the plan. There's the Google map. I also want to shout out to SkyVector. They're the ones I use for planning all this stuff. SkyVector can once you find the airport code, this is actual real world airport stuff. It has all the frequencies and the runway directions and so on and so forth, the coordinates, the elevations, all that. And then what I really like is they always have a VFR map, and this is the VFR map. This is what an actual pilot would look at to plan his VFR trip. Now, VFR is visual flight reference. It's visually seeing where you're going versus any type of instrument landing or instrument flight. So we are doing this at the middle of day. It keeps changing. I'm going to put this back to noon. I like noon because the sun's above me. But let's go ahead and switch back. Whoop. Before we switch back, I totally screwed that up. Hey, there's Bill
Can
Beto.
you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Welcome, Bill Beto. Bill Beto, you were actually in London? Is that
Newcastle? I'm in the north of England.
Okay, North England. All right, perfect. How did your dad come to get on this bridge project? Is he an engineer, or what's the story?
He was a civil engineer when he was working.
Okay.
And he worked for a company that designed hydraulic systems for all kinds of major civil engineering projects. And so he designed not a very sexy part of the bridge, but the cables that support the bridge descend into the ground. And underground there are huge hydraulic rams that absorb the movement of the bridge. And my dad designed and oversaw the installation of the hydraulic rams in the bridge part.
Wow, that's cool. So did he ever go out? I mean, obviously he had to, right? He had to go out and visit this bridge under construction?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he spent several weeks out there, all told. Yeah.
So did you get to go to it?
Thing. No, we were at school at the time. This was a long time ago.
Long time ago, okay. Well, because this bridge, I flew over it the other day off camera just to make sure we were going to have something to fly to. And yeah, it's there. But it's an incredible bridge. I'm super impressed with it. And one of the features we'll see when we're flying to it is that when you're coming from Sweden into Denmark, you cross the bridge, you're above ground. And then when you get to the Swedish part, it looks like it drops into a tunnel because it doesn't actually go all the way to land. So it goes down into a tunnel and it must appear somewhere.
So they dug a tunnel part way, and the fill from the tunnel they used to create the artificial island. So where the bridge goes down into the ground, that's actually an artificial island that's been built up with the fill from the tunnel.
Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. All right. Well, I'm sure, Bill Beto, you can see my stream from where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to just take off here. I took off from, and you know, I don't know if you can pronounce them any better than I can. Roskilde.
No, my pronunciation's no better.
Right? So I'm sure we're pronouncing it totally wrong. But like I said, you know, any of my, let's see, we want to head almost directly east. So there's the marker right there. So it's 24 kilometers out, or nautical meters, I should say. 24 nautical meters out. I wanted to fly some place, you know, I wanted to give us some time flying so we could talk. Bill Beto and I met through a gaming group that we both belong to, and that's the Mahula family. And we have played several games of Blood Bowl 2, where he has thoroughly kicked my butt in. But are you anxiously waiting for Blood Bowl 3?
Oh yeah, that'll be really interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I played Blood Bowl when I was little. I actually played the board game itself.
I did too. Yeah.
So
let's not think about how many years ago that was.
Right. Yeah. We don't talk about years. So I'm flying in my favorite plane, which is the Super Cub. Well, so it's called the Cub Crafter, but it's basically a Super Cub aircraft. It's a little bit more, when you look on the inside, It's a little bit more sophisticated than your standard Cub, but it's basically a Cub. It's got, up-to-date electronics and so on and so forth. But we're not going to use any of that. We're flying by visual reference. And we're going to fly over here to this bridge, which I think is really cool. Oh, I should raise my flaps. That'll give me a little more speed. There we go. Now, the people you'll see like SAS 463. That's probably a real-life flight. But you'll see like Furry Face 99. Furry Face 99 is another player that's actually playing Microsoft Flight Simulator. One of the things I really love about this game is that you could play it by yourself or you can play it with friends. Mahula and I are actually going to get together and do a live stream where he actually lives in Las Vegas and he drove over to Los Angeles and couldn't believe how LA looked so much like Grand Theft Auto 5. And so, he found buildings that were in GTA that were in LA and he drove by them. So I'm going to do a flyby of those places, and hopefully Mahula can guide me through it. Of course, like he said, he goes, I was just driving, my girlfriend was navigating.
Squawk 0201 Captain 70.
So, Bill Beto, do you play any flight simulators?
No, I mean I've got the Game Pass and I could download Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Right.
It's just I've never done any simulators, so
okay.
It would take quite some time to get used to it, I think.
Well, it's not too bad. I did have one person get on my last stream, and he said that he asked if you had to be a pilot to fly this game. I mean, you absolutely don't. You can fly this game with your ASDF keys if you really wanted to. I think it would be a little more difficult, but I use a flight stick and throttle for it. But I've been a big fan of flight simulators for years, and none of them have really given me the feel that I'm actually flying a plane like this one has. So I have a good friend of mine who is an actual pilot. He's a certified private pilot. And he has taken me out flying several times. And, I've even got about 3.5 hours of flight time on his plane. Because he's let me, once you get up there, he's like, hey, you want to take it over? And I'm like, okay. Are we going to crash? I don't know. But it's, when you fly a flight simulator, you don't feel the plane. It's kind of like driving a car. If you're to do a car simulator, you don't feel the car go over the bumps, going down the hill, going up the hill, so on and so forth. Flight simulator is the same way. Except this one really encompasses how slow and how fast things can happen in an airplane. For instance, lining up on a runway, a lot of the flight simulators I've played, it's the landing and takeoff is not part of the game functionality. They would rather have you do the aerial combat or whatever it is that that flight simulator is portraying. This one is all about the pilot. It really is. It's about lining up on the runway, seeing the runway in a distance, and it takes a while to get there, and you gently drift down. I mean, it's not quick. And that's one of the things I really loved about it. After flying a plane and flying with my buddy and seeing how he does things, for one, it's a process. You got to know how to come into the airport. You got to know the lingo for talking to the tower, which is all fine and dandy. That can all be learned, but it's the actual feel of the airplane. Because when he first let me take over, he goes, now, you see your altitude, I want you to hold your altitude right at, 8,000 feet or whatever we were at. I think we're at 6,000 feet. So I'm just watching the gauge, and I'm moving the, because it was a joystick. It wasn't a yoke steering wheel. And I'm chasing it. I'm going up, I'm going down, I'm going up, I'm going down. I mean, we were literally, he's like, you're making me sick, because we're like minus 100 feet and plus 100 feet. So he goes, now, I want you to just relax, grab the stick, and look out at the horizon and see how well you do. And he watched the gauge for me. And he goes, you know what, buddy? You didn't move a bit by just looking at the horizon. So there is the realism that's in this, because you can do the same thing in this. If you sit there and watch the gauge, you'll start, oh my God, I'm up too high. Oh, I'm down too low,
Yeah.
And you'll chase what he calls chasing the bubble. But if you just sit back and fly, you usually do pretty well. So we are now approaching, well, we're still 10 nautical miles, almost 11 from the bridge. But you can see SAS 463 is an actual airplane. It's actually, you can just see it taking off from Copenhagen's airport. We're about ready to fly over it. Now there's all sorts of pilot lingo. I'm actually flying in a controlled airspace, which is meant for big aircraft. They would never let me come into this controlled aircraft, this airspace. But being that we're just a flight simulator, we're gonna do it anyway. Oh, there's the airport. There's the airport name, Kastrup. I was gonna take off from here because I was like, we're gonna take off from Ketchup. Because I knew I'd butcher that name too. But we're gonna come down here, because when I first saw this bridge, I was like, wait a sec, it's not fully rendered in, because I was coming in just like here. You can see the bridge in the distance, but it's like it comes up and then it stops in the middle of the water. And I was like, what the hell? That's going to be disappointing for Bill Beto, because he wants to see this bridge that his father worked on, and it isn't even complete. So I flew down close to ground, which I'm going to do now. And I got out there and I was like, oh, hey, look at that. It goes into a tunnel, which I'm sure comes out somewhere in Copenhagen.
Yes, it does, yeah.
Now, I wonder, and I don't know if you'd know any more than I do, but do you do a lot of travel overseas, in the UK, or not the UK, what do they call it?
In the EU.
Yeah, in the EU.
I haven't done much, no.
Okay.
I haven't done much.
So what do they do? Like in the United States, we have, we got to go through our customs, and every time you leave the United States, you got to go in and out of customs. So how do they do that on something like this with this bridge? You're driving, you're in Copenhagen, you're like, oh, I need to go over to Denmark, and I'm just gonna drive over there. There must be some sort of customs, or we've got that with the border. You take your truck and you go through the customs when you go through, like going to Mexico or Canada. Do they have stuff like that in the EU?
There is a border, but the EU has something that I think is called the Schengen Agreement. It's something like that. And it's an open border arrangement. So all of the countries that are part of that agreement, and there's no border control for their citizens. So you can just go straight.
Yeah, so even though you're a different country, you kind of belong to the same country.
Yeah, so I suppose it's kind of like the United States of Europe.
Okay.
The EU, it's kind of like you don't have a passport to go from one state in the US to another state.
Right.
It's kind of, they've got to that point in the EU.
I wish the whole world would go that way. I really do.
It would make life a lot easier. Yeah.
Well, I think it would bring us all together, because this whole separation thing, I think, causes a lot of issues. You and I have come together from Mahula's gaming group, and gaming is worldwide. You know, there's no separation of, well, you're Russian, you know, you can't game with us because you're a commie. You know?
Yeah, there's none of that at all. It's
Yeah.
great, yeah.
It's one of the games I play is the World of Warcraft, and it's basically the entire world. So here's
500.
where the tunnel goes in, and then we'll just fly the bridge. So you can see it goes right underground there. Got all the little traffic cones. I'm curious to, is this the part of the land that that's man-made?
There was an island there to start with, but we built it up into what it is now.
Okay.
So it would have been much smaller originally. Wow.
And now you talked. He worked on the suspension cables, right?
Yeah, on the
Yeah.
hydraulic rams that the suspension cables connect to, yeah.
Because I noticed when I was flying over it, there's only one section that even had any suspension cables. All the rest were like pylons going down into the water. They got a lot of bridges like these down in Florida. And yeah, I was stationed out in Florida when I was going to nuclear power school, so we, you know, on the weekends and stuff, we'd drive all over the place. And some of these bridges, some of them are floating bridges that they're actually on. They float on the water, you know.
Oh, they float on the water, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And those are really weird to go across because, you know, you're thinking, what's separating me from driving my car off into the wild blue yonder, into the deep? Except a layer of concrete. Concrete floats, apparently.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a pretty, I mean, this bridge, it's probably, oh my gosh, probably, I don't even know how long. It's miles long. Kilometers long.
Yeah, I think it's about 3.5 miles, the bridge. I think the whole crossing is about 7 kilometers, and the
Wow.
bridge bit, you know, slightly less than half.
Yep, so here's the part coming up that had the suspension cables. Of the ones I found. Now maybe there's other ones, but this must be where to allow a boat or a ship to pass through. Is the only thing I can think of. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there you go. There's your dad's suspension cables.
Yeah.
And I think when was this? When was your dad working on this? About what time frame?
Oh, good grief. Well, I think I was still at school, so that's more than 30 years ago.
Oh wow! So this is quite an old bridge then. By looking at it,
while, yeah.
yeah, by looking at it, you wouldn't think so. But this is just amazing that it connects these two countries together. You know, I don't think the representation of the vehicles down there are correct because it looks like they're all driving on one side of the bridge.
Yeah.
Some of them look like they're driving in the air. I think
they
they are.
Doesn't look quite right. Yeah, they're floating in the air. Yeah.
Well, but it's not designed to be, you know, I mean, these aren't designed to be games that are, or this game isn't designed to be, you know, the ground part isn't the accurate part. It's the flying and looking down and going, oh my God, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, but there's 2 landmarks over here I want to fly by, and then we'll hop back over, cross back over the water, and go over back to Copenhagen, and there's a castle there. I want to see if I can find it. Of course, I think castle in my American mind, and I think, you know, like medieval, you know, Knights of the Round Table type castle.
Yeah.
But you know, so I was in the Navy and I traveled all over the world, and the one thing I came to realize, now this is probably your border crossing your border patrol buildings where, you know, you got multi-lanes there. You probably have to talk to customs or whatever.
It's a toll bridge. It's a toll
Oh, it's a
bridge.
toll
So I
bridge.
think those are the,
Oh, that's where
those are
they
the
collect the
toll,
money.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it cost them like billions, you know. It was just
Oh, I
ludicrously
bet.
expensive.
Yeah. But when I was in the service and I went to all these different countries and all these different cities, and to think, to be so arrogant, as I always thought as an American, I don't know if it's just, you know, solely American, but there are billions and billions of people out there, and they're all going to work, they're all doing their thing. To think that your little neighborhood is all there is in the world. It's sad that people think that way. You know, I mean, we've got all sorts of crime that goes on. I just watched a news brief this morning where some 16-year-old and her 18-year-old boyfriend stabbed and killed her father because he had disapproved of them being together. Well, it's like, she's 16, for Christ's sake. You know? But yet, to think that with all the people in the world, that was their problem.
500.
So this is a stadium. Elita Stadium in Malmo. I bet you it's soccer, because you guys don't have real football, do you?
It's well, we call that rugby. You see?
Yeah,
so
rugby. That's a cool stadium.
So yeah, on the pictures, but as we flew over the bridge, you couldn't see, but underneath the road bridge, there's a rail bridge.
Oh, really?
And so it really revitalized Malmo, having the crossing.
Oh, I bet.
It made it part of the main European railway system. Instead of the end of the line, it became part of the main circular European rail system. So
right.
It's been very good for Malmo's economy.
This one I flew by the other day too. This is pretty cool. I mean, you know, it kind of reminds me of some of the buildings that are over there in the Arab Emirates. You know, really tall skyscraper
like Dubai
stuff.
and that kind of place.
Yeah, Dubai. That's what I was thinking of. It was Dubai. It's a beautiful building. It's at one of those, you know, twisted architect buildings.
Yeah. You wonder how practical that is, don't you?
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's totally practical. The corner rooms, I'm sure, are just really spacious, and you can fit shelves in there easily. I have a friend of mine. She lives down in Idaho, and she's got an octagon-shaped house. So the outside of the outside of the house is octagon-shaped, like a stop sign, right? And her biggest complaint is the fact that none of her closets are square. All of her closets have some sort of angle in them that just is difficult to do anything with. Oh my gosh, I got somebody at the door. Hold on one moment. Hopefully we won't crash. I'll be right back.
Well, that's a good
All
view
right.
of the bridge.
That was a UPS guy. The UPS guy almost killed me. Yeah, it's a long, really long bridge, and that's amazing that they have a railway underneath of it. So was that originally designed that way, or do you know, or was that something that?
Yeah,
After
it was
the
an
bridge.
integral part of
Okay.
No, an integral part of it. Yeah.
Awesome. You really, when you fly one of these flight simulators or any type of real life game, it's really amazing to realize how big the world is. I mean, we've been streaming for 34 minutes, and we did takeoff, fly by the bridge. Now we're coming back into Copenhagen, and I think I'm on the right trajectory for. Oh, I probably need to go more north. But I wanted to fly by the bridge one more time. But how big the world really is, you know? I mean, I live in a state that has 1 million people. That's it. There are communities inside big cities that have over the number of people I have in my entire state.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's astonishing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll be able to find this. I wish there was a way. I know it's coming up. There is a way coming up of being able to, once you're in flight, that's on the next patch. I was watching the patch notes on it. That when you're in flight, you can bring up a map and change your destination to a new POI. So you can go from POI to POI to POI. Because right now what I got to do is guess the direction of where it might be. But that's why I use, the Google Maps and that kind of stuff when I'm flying. It kind of gives me an idea of where it might be. And then, of course, it's supposed to pop up with any POIs that I get close to. Like the one that you see right now, the blue circle, the blue and white circle, that's actually the airport. That's Copenhagen's airport.
All right.
Now, if I got closer, then the name would pop up that's the airport. But you can see all the people out there flying. All the black ones are all people, actual other players that are flying in this area. And then the white ones, the white letterings, are real world flights that are going on right now. So if
That's
you were
amazing,
if you were to go to Copenhagen's airport site, they have the SAS 463 coming in, and BCY 1221 probably getting ready to take off at this particular time of the day. So, and that's and weather is the same way with this game. I could set it right now. I have it set to no clouds, perfect weather. So you get the best viewing that way. But you could set it to real world weather, and like right now we've got a couple of tropical storms, possible hurricanes forming off our east coast in the U.S. You could go fly those, which I've done once. I flew into one of the hurricanes, and all it is just rain and dark clouds. Yeah, it's not very fun to fly. There's nothing to see. But I'm assuming that these guys that are flying over here are flying over those points of interest. So I'm hoping just flying. Oh, look, there's one. There's a point of interest. And it's the Copenhagen Opera House. Nice. All right, we'll fly over that. Because I think they were all bundled in the same area. So, what Microsoft did in making this game, which I think is absolutely amazing, is they laid the groundwork for this flight simulator that uses satellite imagery to depict what's on the ground. Then, they allowed companies to go in and hand map point of interest. For instance, we flew the Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse Monument last stream, and those were never in the game. When the original game, when I bought it, that was one of the areas we checked out because we were all excited about, oh, what do they have? Let's go check it out. Because we flew into New York, and the Statue of Liberty's there, Brooklyn Bridge is there, you know, all that kind of stuff. Oh, look at that. There's all sorts of windmills, or
There's loads of them, isn't there?
yeah, rows of wind generators down there. All right, I got to start dropping down so we can get closer. I can't go too fast because then I'll over-rev and crash. But Mount Rushmore wasn't there. So then they did an update and they said, oh yes, Mount Rushmore is there now. We know it is because some company went in and made it. Oh, and they're turning too. Look at that. I did not expect them to be turning.
That's attention to detail. That looks like an industrial port type area.
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Well, being to have those windmills out in the water, they probably coming in here to some industrial center to. I don't know. I mean, it's a port area too, so it's probably got a lot to do with, you know, bringing oil in and. All right, so we're in the right location, I'm sure. So we'll fly over the Opera House first. So some company actually
500.
drew three-dimensionally this opera house, and then whatever this is, the Amalienborg,
Wow, that's some impressive buildings, isn't it?
right? Oh, there's Rosenborg Castle. We got to fly by it. Of course, like I said, I'm assuming it's some sort of, you know, Knights of the Round Table castle, but it may not be. Well, yeah,
Oh,
it
that's
is.
the castle
yeah.
in the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost in a lake. It's, yeah. Wow, that's fantastic.
Let's do a little lower flaps a little more. We'll do a little slow fly by that one. Yeah, I mean it's not a huge castle, but it's a castle.
Yeah.
And what else we got here for POIs? I think there was like 4 or 5 of them. Yeah, there's a couple up here. Of course, in real life, as a pilot, you would never be able to do this. Fly this low to the ground over the city.
Over a city, yeah. So yes, actually, you get a view that you'll never get. Yeah,
Yes.
Right, yeah.
All right, so this is Parken Stadium. We're gonna fly over, and then I don't know what the other one is. But it's really kind of cool that Microsoft allowed these people to do this. So you don't, it's not one studio trying to produce all of these points of interest for people to fly around and view. So it was really ingenious idea what they did. I'm assuming that's going to be another
Another soccer stadium. Yeah.
another soccer stadium, yeah. So you behind me, yeah. Being that there's another soccer field just there, and All right, so now we're gonna go back to the airport. We're gonna land at Copenhagen itself. I got to get my trim zeroed out here, so I'm not diving, so I can activate my air traffic control. There we go. We're going up now. Go ahead and reduce flaps a little. And still dropping a little bit. Now we're rising. All right, good enough for air traffic control. So let me bring up my air traffic control screen and request the nearest airport, which is Catsup.
Castrup Tower, Captain 7 Zulu is 6 miles northwest 600 feet with Mike to land.
All right.
Captain 7 Zulu, Castrup Tower. Altimeter 29.92, wind 268 at 3.
So that brought up my little marker now. So the little triangle marker is the airport.
500.
Make left downwind runway 30, Captain 7 Zulu.
500.
Oh, no, it's not.
500.
There won't be the entry pattern. Wow, it's closer
500.
than I thought. Yeah, I know, 500 feet. That's the one thing that I did notice when I was flying with my buddy. His plane talks to him like that too. And the closer you get to the ground, it's really annoying. Because the damn plane will be like 500, 500, 500. It's like, shut up! I know I'm at 500. But I suppose for a pilot, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's useful to know how close the ground is,
Yes.
particularly as it's getting closer.
So there's SAS 463, and it's an Airbus. So that's kind of cool. I think that's somebody flying though, because it hasn't gone very far. I think he's doing touch and goes. Well, of course, he could be doing real life touch and goes too, for all we know. So I know my buddy, in order to stay qualified as a pilot to carry passengers, he has to, what is it now? He has to, every 90 days or every 60 days, I think it's every 60 days, he has to do at least 3 takeoff and landings. So they do these touch and goes. That's considered a takeoff or a landing and a takeoff. So they have to do that before he can carry passengers. So a lot of times when we go out there, if he hasn't flown in a while, he has to go up in the plane, do these touch and goes, come back down, land, and then pick me up, get me in a plane, and then we take off and go. So there's a lot to it, which is good because I don't think I just want anybody up there in the air flying. I'd want somebody super intelligent flying, because that could be really scary. Alright, well, I'm assuming it's bringing me in correctly. So, what's really cool about, and this is what I was talking about, this is bringing me in the flight pattern. So what you're going to see here is I'm going to fly pretty much southeast, and then at the last second it's going to turn me and have me come down onto the runway. So it's called flying a pattern. I just have to maintain my speed and my altitude while I come in here. But you'll see where it comes up here, I'm going to fly through this little tunnel. My buddy calls them, because he flies Flight Simulator also, my pilot friend, but he doesn't turn any of these cheats on. So when I do it, he's like, okay, fly through the magic windows. But it was funny, the very first time we did, they have these, in this game, they have these landing challenges where you have to land like in crosswind, or it's up on a super steep mountain somewhere. And he's like, let's see how well you do compared to me, a real pilot. And I'm like, okay. You know, I beat him. He was pissed. But the only reason I beat him is because I'm more used to flight simulators and so I understand how it reacts, and he's, you know, used to real airplanes.
Yeah.
So it's going to make me fly over the airport, which is really weird that it would make me do this. Oh, I'm going too slow now. So so that's the other thing about these magic windows. You're going too fast or too slow, it'll tell you. If you're perfect, you're right in blue. So I thought 20% throttle was enough, but apparently not. Now I'm going too fast. So we'll do 30% throttle.
Xanfan GMR said, "Hey, just saw that you were playing Doe."
Hey Zan, it's Zanfan. Bill Beto's on with me. We just did a flyby a bridge that his dad worked on when he was a little kid. You can see it. You can actually see it out there in the water. But his father worked on that bridge as an engineer years ago, and so I got him to come on and be my special co-pilot. So he told us all the stories of his dad engineering. I bet. So he probably didn't spend a lot of time out there. Most of it was probably engineering drawings, or was he an on-site engineer?
Well, both. So he did the drawings, but then he oversaw the production of the hydraulic rams.
Okay.
And then he oversaw their installation. So he went out to do some site visits first, and then he went back to oversee the installation. So he wasn't there for huge lengths of time, but he must have spent a few weeks all told.
Yeah.
Out in that part of the world.
All right, now we're starting to descend. I got to slow down even more, and that's where the 20% is going to come in. I'm going to go a little too fast as I start coming down, but that's all right. Yeah, this made me go all the way around because it wanted me to come in on I should have requested a different runway. Looks like I'm coming in on a dirt runway. Gonna make me do another turn.
500.
And it says I'm going too fast, but I mean, the proper speed is like 55 to 60. Yeah, there's the actual turn.
The trouble I have with things like this is I overcompensate. So
Yeah, I mean it's literally, and you know what's funny is that in the real world airplane, it's very similar to this. It's you don't compensate, you know, that much. So if you didn't know, so you see these little stripe marks, then the number, that's the direction the field is going. You're supposed to touch down, your wheels are supposed to touch down on these two white blocks coming up. Whoop, yep, right. You're supposed to touch down there on those white blocks for a perfect landing.
right.
All right. Cut the throttle here. Apply a little brake. Little brake.
Falcon 7 Zulu,
There
turn
we
next
go.
Oh yes, don't
taxiway.
flip the tail up. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm not using a rudder. My joystick, it's a twist on my wrist. What my rudder is. And then what's cool is it's going to give me taxi directions. So that's what these blue marks are.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. If you have all these markers turned on, it's going to tell you, okay, take this offshoot. And it'll taxi
Falcon
you.
7 Zulu, turn next taxiway.
See, she even said it. Turn next taxiway.
Captain 7 Zulu, contact ground on 121.625.
Yeah. But anyway, we're just gonna
Going
stop
to
right here,
121.625, Captain 7 Zulu.
and we'll call it a
Castro
stream right
ground,
there. Bill
Captain
Beto,
7 Zulu requesting Request taxi to
thank you very much for joining me on the stream.
Falcon 7 Zulu taxi
I'm going to try to make this a
Okay.
series of getting people to come on and fly by something that they want to see.
Taxiing to gate Charlie 27 using taxiway
shush.
Bravo
Thank you for
Romeo, Captain 7
thank you for doing that. That was great. I
Yeah.
enjoyed that.
Well, if you have any other, just leave a comment there in the Mahula Discord. If you have any other areas you want me to fly by, because I think this is kind of a cool thing to do, is to, fly around to places that my friends know. I got one coming up. The guy wants me to fly the Star Wars Canyon. And I was like, what? I've never heard of the Star Wars Canyon. So you know how like the Star Wars in the movie, they flew down in the trench and did that, and so it's in California, and they've nicknamed it the Star Wars Trench. So that's gonna be my next stream. Will be that one.
One for Bob.
Yeah. Oh, Bob will want me to fly somewhere in New York, I'm sure. I've done that for him already, but yeah. Zanfin, I flew over his house in Texas, but yeah. So if you guys know of any places you want me to fly that are personal to you, or maybe you just want to see, like Mahula mentioned Machu Picchu, and so we flew to Machu Picchu, and Machu Picchu is not there in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I know it's there in the real world. I'm pretty sure of it. So, but Bebeto, thank you very much for joining us and on stream, and I hope to fly something else for you again.
Cool.
All right, thanks a lot.